seems like, every 5 years, every 5 to 10 years, we get worse. Every 5 years, every 5, 10 years, seems like we get more creative how to treat each other bad and worse.
That part. We do. We do.
Even with, I blame it on the Willie Lynch syndrome that is so indoctrinated in us that we don't even know that's a problem.
Yeah.
We almost we've made sense of it. We've made it an okay thing. We then turned it into a what's the word? We've made it into the gospel that we're naturally using things out of the Willie Lynch scripture, and we turned it, made it in the gospel in our lives. For an example, in the Willie Lynch doctrine, it said you pitch the old nigger versus the young nigger, right? And that's what we do now. Like you like, for an example, let's say you never heard of let's say, for example, somebody like Jeff Bezos be in a position on live TV to verbally attack Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Right? But then you hear some years ago, Oprah attacked rappers for using the N-word. Right?
I've been, known for not being a big fan of rap music because of misogynist lyrics and because of the use of the N-word. And in the magazine, we discussed the use of the N-word and why I feel, everybody knows that I feel that we shouldn't be, singing the N-word. You obviously feel differently. And
A little bit.
A little bit. A little bit. And tell everybody why.
What we had discussed is more of words. People give words power.
Yeah.
And for our generation, what we did was we took the word and we took the power out of that word. We turned a word that was very ugly and hurtful into a term of endearment. So, even when someone says, there's still intention behind what you say. But pretty much took the power out of the word. Because if we just start removing words from the dictionary, just make up another word the next day. So we don't address the problem. The problem is racism, right? That's really the problem.
So we disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll say that's okay. We have also had, some years ago, before Bill Cosby, Dirk came out, he had a big lecture where he was getting on black people, telling them to do better and get married and go to school.
About these people who cry when their son is standing there in an orange suit. Where were you when he was 2? Where were you when he was 12? And how come you don't know he had a pistol?
School and stop having kids by wedlock, which I had no problem with that. It's just that you should have said it to us, only to us, and only to us by us.
Right, and not like in a public forum where you're shaming us.
Right.
In front of white people. Yeah,
I
get that.
Farrakhan has perfectly done that for years in a private setting. Of course, they don't want to air those out because they always want to label him as the hateful, the hate white people thing. But he had tons of lectures that he got in black folks' ass. He got in our ass, but he did it in a crowd that was just supposed to be for us. So I think that.
What did he say?
Brothers need to take responsibility for our own neighborhoods. and in our neighborhoods and our children stand up like men, be more responsible. You know, stop all the murdering and killing of our own brothers in our neighborhoods. That is our fault. We can't blame that on them. That is our fault. People say, well, we got the guns, but no, you got to pull the trigger.
That's right.
You know, you got to pull the trigger. You got to make the conscious decision and put that gun in your hand and kill another brother. Regardless where the gun came from, you pulled that trigger. So, you know, as far as our neighborhoods go, as far as us black folks, you know, as we you know, move forward, I just feel like we're just declining. And we almost feel, and in a certain type of way, they try to make it sound like that they're adapting to white culture in a way, right? I've heard like, because you know what's sad now, it's this new battle of the sexes, right? Well, I feel like it's part of women's liberation that now that black women are getting more educated, going more schools, start more businesses. Now it's got to be more of a compete thing with black men, and not like a and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying
I know, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I feel it. I feel it.
It's going. It's becoming a more competitive thing and more so a unity thing. You know, I mean, you know, you have women. And you have, and I gotta keep it 100. I mean, you have women and be like, well, I don't need a man. Like, so it's like, you don't hear men make statements like that because we know we need y'all. And if
do we really want to go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah.
Let's go.
we know we need y'all.
We can't tell.
Yeah, we need.
I'm going to go down that rabbit hole a little bit. We cannot tell that y'all need women.
Why?
We cannot, because there's nothing about y'all that shows I need a woman to be soft around me. I need a woman to come home to. I need a woman to cook a meal for me. I need a woman to have a nice conversation. I need a woman to sit and hold and watch a movie with and go to sleep with. No, you don't.
Well,
you need a woman to be in and out. You need to be able to be in and out, do what you want to do, in and out, do what you want to do. And it's supposed to be a fulfilling thing for both people, but it's not. And so the problem is there is a misconception, obviously, that men have on what they think they are. They are typically unavailable. They typically are damaged, and they typically have these emotional baggages that women just can't carry along with their own shit. It's heavy. It's a heavy load, and they're expecting us. I mean, you know, I had to adjust my glasses on that.
But you know what? Which I was going to get around. I was going to come around to that because that is almost some of the faults of the generation of before, because that generation before never taught us about mental health. We never had a discussion about mental health.
Right.
And you got to think that my generation and your generation are brought up in an area where the poverty now isn't like the poverty of yesterday.
Right, yet.
Right. So
in my opinion, I'm glad that you brought that up too.
So we're essentially, you know, people is walking around. I would say, let's say, 45 to 60, right? We're a damaged culture because we're brought up in that crack culture.
That's right.
Right? And in that crack culture, we seen hellifying stuff that we need to unpack. But also, it in a way scarred us in a way that in the way of like who we are and how we act now is the past traumas. That's the detriment of who we are now because of those past traumas, right?
Well, that too, and I think also, before I forget this thought, because you brought up something that triggered this thought for me. If, in fact, we were to be back in a time where there was poverty, let's just say the Great Depression, heaven forbid, but maybe something akin to that, I think that would literally bring black families back together.
I think so too.
Because we need to actually lose everything for us to realize that we got. We always looking around, okay, we got these cars, we got all these jobs, we got this. But what if you don't have anything but each other? That would force us to value each other. That would force us to see, the person that looks like us as someone that is really family.
Right.
Because we both in the same boat. We all in the same boat. But right now, it's such a disparagement in income that, like you said, people feel a sense of entitlement or bougie or above someone. And it is a man versus woman thing, in my opinion, because it's like a lot of times as a woman, I was in a situation where I was literally competing with my husband, competing with him. Meaning that if I did something, he literally had to beat me. And at first it didn't seem like that until I started doing something. So that's the fear that a lot of women have, and like why a lot of women are single is because, okay, let's say you are single and you're in a space and you're in your feminine energy and then you start to do those things that you enjoy, that you love. All of a sudden, in order to open yourself up to a relationship, you got to humble yourself. You got to bring your ego down. But you have to be ready to put in the work.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's not a matter of, I think, man versus woman. It's because we're seeing men getting married and women getting married. It's the fact that men and women just seem like they lazy. They don't want to put in the work. People get married like this and they get divorced like that because ain't nobody trying to put in the work. Back in the day, during the time there was poverty, during a time where maybe there was just one income, a house full of kids and a mama and a daddy that went to work.
So so there's this internet conversation. I heard a woman say the other day, and a guy backed her up. It's like if a guy is making $50,000 a year, he should not be dating. He should be falling back until he's making more money. But and I know, in different parts of the country, $50,000 is good.
It's different where you go.
It's different where you go.
And where your expenses
where
are.
your expenses are. You can go somewhere and you can almost have a baby mansion and you're making $50,000 a year. So that's really like her point really isn't really resonating. I guess if she lived in New York or California or in some parts of Texas and DC or whatever, that makes a lot of sense. But now, like for an example, you say, my generation, right? My generation came up in a generation of drug dealers. We've seen the money these guys are making, right? We've seen the hot cars and how much respect, and we've seen even a bum nigga or ugly nigga had money. He still commanded a certain type of respect, right? So now you have individuals like myself and a few others who are chasing the dollar now because we feel like that's a sense of respect, self-respect. That's a respect you get from your peers. That's a respect that you get from your community, and then that's some respect you get from women. And with that being said, the drive to get your money up, for lack of better words, supersedes relationships. It supersedes a good time. You know, you sleep, breathe. You sleep, eat, breathe. You better your finances. Make your finances better. Because that's if you're anywhere in type of social media, TV, whatever, you're hearing the conversations that what that's out there now about the six-figure man, the protector and provider. But even in a way that's kind of skewed, because if you look at where people say, well, the man back in the day, he provided for his woman. Well, technically, yeah, but she wasn't allowed to work.
Right. I was gonna say
She
it's
wasn't
a little bit different.
She wasn't
yeah.
allowed to work. So
Right.
what are you talking about? She wasn't allowed to work. So when you say, yeah, he and then the way the economy was set up back then, it wasn't set in a way where I guess in a way the dollar went more, right? If you take equivalent of a person right now, back in the day, if you take equivalent of a person right now, let's say a manager at Burger King, right? And you took him back 60 years ago, he was able to afford a house,
Right.
and have a family, right? Nowadays, I don't get you shit because they have elevated the tech jobs. They've elevated the pay and priority to the tech jobs, where the tech jobs pay more and the blue collar jobs beneath that pays hardly anything, right?
And of course, there's no skills training in high school. Right. So it's like the people graduated from high school could go into those fields.
Right.
Immediately.
Right.
But they don't have the skills training.
Right.
So
Right.
they say, oh, you got to go to college, but that's not for everyone. So then there's a whole big gap that's getting wider and wider. And
Yeah, I
right
mean,
now.
the whole society has changed because they look what we went into, right? So listen to this, right? So when we first came up, it was you leave school, go get a job, right? That was the requirement. Then it was like when you go to school, go get a job, then it's like, oh, you got to get a good paying job, all right? So then after a good paying job, it's like, oh, you have a good paying job with a credit report, right? See how the trend. Then
Right,
it was
every
like,
time you think you're going up, you're like, oh no.
Then it was like,
I wanna get up.
you had to have a good report and then get you a associate's degree, right? Then actually after a while you had to have a good report, associate's, a high school associates, and a bachelor's now with a good credit report. It was a continuing of moving a goalpost, right? But even with the continuing of moving the goalpost, there was nothing. There was no. I've been gainfully employed since I was 14 years old, right? And I remember working jobs when I was young, and the manager that you sit and work with every day, he dictated your pay. Right? The person you sat through every day.
Yeah, that was the person that wrote your check.
They wrote their check. Hey, you know what? Hey, I think this year you need to raise. I'm giving you $1.50. Now all this shit is corporate. It goes to HR, and they set a standard of, hey, we only give 3% a year. That's the natural average, is 3% a year for a raise, right? So now when we look at our financial situation with how the dollar years ago made more money, you can use the dollar to get a lot of what you can't get today. Now you have a situation where the protect and provide thing is kind of out the door. You can't use that no more, right? It has to be 2 incomes now, right? But there's a group of people. There's a group of like my thing is, I have no problem if you set a standard for yourself,
Right.
right? But don't make your standard the gospel and try to say everybody's some shit if you don't live by my standard,
Right.
right? Or your home is fucked up because you have to split the bills with your dude, and over here I don't, so your house is some shit, right? Don't try to like shit on everybody else because your situation is a little better, your situation is a little sugar than everybody else. It's just that everybody's house takes different operational things, right? If you look at Michelle Obama, when she met Barack, he had a beat up fucking car. She could move her foot and see the ground, right?
The whole in the
The whole,
floor.
she was making more than him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she even said, after they married, there was 10 years that she didn't even like him. But nowadays it's like, we quick to, divorce or whatever.
That part.
When times get hard and stuff like that.
We scary. Americans are literally scary. They're scary. They're not like the what they call the old generation. What was the baby boomers? Those are the ones that stay married and stay, because Americans now, they're scary. Anything happen that they don't like, I'm out, and like that is an assumption that the entire world is going to go your way. Literally, that's an assumption. When you quit something early, anything, you just quit. That it was a reflection really on yourself, because you didn't value it enough to fight for it, to pursue it all the way to the end, because that's the longest part. The beginning to the end.
Well, what's crazy is, and I think, quoting the great Kevin Samuels, he was really saying that women marry for happiness, and the women back in the day, they married for legacy and love, and today women marry for happiness, and the fact that as soon as they feel like they're not happy in a marriage or relationship, they out, right? But then one of the problems in that is that, and this goes back to our mental health and everything. Some people go into relationships broken in the way they're looking for their significant other to be their happiness, and that's not their job.
Right, that's too much to ask of anybody.
That's not their
How
job.
can anybody be responsible for your happiness?
Right, that's not their job.
That's something that I think women, especially, and men too, have to grow into.
Right.
I don't think, and I know Jada Pinkett mentioned it too.
Right.
Like, her and Will Smith had that revelation.
Right.
That you're not responsible for somebody else's happiness.
Yeah.
And I think once you evolve, and I think, you and I are, the same age, we're at that level where we know, hey, I got to make my own happiness.
Right.
And then if I can have a partner to kind of add to that, that's great.
Right.
But if I don't know what my happiness is, how in the world do I know that you even will make me happy? You know what I mean?
Right.
What really makes me happy?
Right.
You got to find that out first.
Because some people don't understand, if I'm not happy in my own self, I can suck the life
Out of you. Yep. Yes. I'm what they call emotional vampire.
Right.
Yeah.
I can suck the life out of you to the point where when I need that emotional support, I done yanked it out of you.
Right, you ain't got it no more. Like, excuse me, you ain't deposited shit in months. How you expecting to withdraw?
Right. And so there's I'm not saying that I have all the answers, because we all lived through our own life experience. There's a generation of who didn't have to live through the crack epidemic, or they was on the backside of that. You
Right.
know?
Thank God.
Right. It was on the backside of that.
Because there's a lot of people that were younger than us that was addicted to crack. That's what really blew me. Like seeing people I was in school with, they just graduated 18, and some of them had dropped out. And then you see 11th Street, man, 11th Street, you go there and it's like all these crackheads. And you're like, I knew that was since 4th grade. I knew that was since 3rd grade.
Right.
And then you see them dying.
Right.
And that's an epidemic that I am so glad that at least my daughter, and well, none of my children had to live through. Yeah, none of them had to live through.
You know, so like I said, having a conversation with my daughter the other day, and she was, expressing her grief with me, and I understood, and I just pretty much was to tell her that I'm not dismissing your pain, I'm not dismissing your trauma, but if I caused trauma to you, it was because I was dealing with my own trauma, and I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to be effective for you because I was dealing with my own trauma. I just knew survival, and part of sometimes just knowing how to survive kind of in a way doesn't make you a great dad because you're in survival mode.
I've known worse dads than that.
Yeah. I understand that, but we can all flip and put puzzles and pieces together to be like, well, this guy did that. This guy, he was here for that, but he wasn't here for that. He did this, and this dad didn't do that. And then you flip it around, it was like, well, this dad was here for that, and this dad wasn't here for that. You can go mix and match puzzles. Because people need different stuff for different reasons, right? And so, with my relationship with her, I was like saying, in my trauma, I just knew survival. I knew that I did not want you to see the things I did when I grew up. I stayed away from alcohol. My dad was an alcoholic. I knew people that was into drugs. I didn't do any drugs. I knew how some toxic relationships, and I didn't want to have you around that. So I did what I did, trying to protect them, but then at the same time, being protective wasn't made me absent when I should have been more present. But again, back to the Black family and our traumas. We need to get to a place where we can start dealing with those and start. It's funny how, it's funny how, back in World War II, and even now, Desert Storm, all these wars that people come back from, and they're traumatized. Some say they shell shocked, mentally stressed, or post-traumatic stress, right? That makes sense to a lot of people, right? But then, if we say, well, look what I had to live in, the streets I had to live in, is that not post-traumatic stress? Is that not shell shock? Is that not,
Well, how did you grow up?
How did I grow up?
When you talking about the streets as you were in, you had to explain it to your daughter. What did you tell her?
No, I just told her, my mom did the best she can raising 3 boys. I mean, some of the places that we lived at, because, she didn't have a lot of education, so where we lived went by her income. And because we lived by her income, some of these places wasn't wasn't pristine neighborhoods. I remember after she was married to a military dude. We had a good day. We lived in a 5-bedroom house. Me and my brothers, we all had our own room. It was always things to do. We lived on a military base, a little youth center they had. There was always activities. We had so much stuff to do. And when she divorced from him, we had to move to, rough part of DC. And, with that being said, it's like, only thing we had was our clothes. Only thing we had our clothes. Mm-hmm. We essentially had to make a pallet on the floor with all our clothes. That's how, in a certain type of way, that's how we ironed them. Later, we slept on them. Then in the morning, we were about to go to school, we'd flip the pallet over, pull our clothes on, put our clothes on. And then at night, we sleep on the pallet, but at the same time, seeing the mice running across the floor. Go in the kitchen, see all the roaches running, cut on the lights, see all the roaches running around. So it wasn't always the best places. But I knew that I never wanted to raise my kids in something like that. So I strive to provide, but providing makes you absent.
But when you were absent, did she know that you were absent because you were providing? And I say all that to say that I was married to somebody who was in the military, and my husband went to a med cruise, right, for 6 months out of the year. So he was absent. And then when he got back from the med cruise, sometimes he'd have to go away for like a month, 2 months. He had to go away for duty every weekend or every other weekend, where he had to go overnight. So in the course of 5 years, he was maybe home about maybe a year in total time, but all broken up.
Right.
So that being said, I knew he was providing, although he was absent. So his absence didn't bother me.
Right.
But it's a difference when the person that you're absent from does not know why you're absent, doesn't know that you're providing. And maybe a young child wouldn't know because they're not seeing that the money that you're making to feed them, the money that you're making to clothe them, but you can be absent and the person know that you're providing.
Right. Well, I mean, again, you're talking about little kids. So
Right.
They're not going to know, right? They're not going to know.
But was there a point that she remembered where you could bring it to her remembrance? Like, could you say, like, remember the time when XYZ? I did that. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the problem with that is the biggest time that they need me the most. That's when I was absent, when they start heading